Hey everyone, we're alive and welcome back to the channel. This is a little bit of a weird thing for me because I normally don't go live on stuff like this, but I thought, hey, why not? I finally got the setup to do some of this, so let's try it. Although I just noticed my part of my green screen didn't fill in the side there. Just ignore that. Actually, it was fine a minute ago. Hold on. Nah, that'll be close enough. So we have a new firmware for the Switch that dropped, and this is a lot of stuff is getting us ready for the Switch 2 and everything that it's going to entail. And there were some interesting things that I saw in here that I thought would be worth going over now so you could be ready when the Switch 2 comes out. In fact, you can actually go ahead and trade your Switch in tomorrow if you want to, and you won't lose any of your data. And we'll go through that here in just a minute, but we'll go through the list here of everything that's been added and changed. So we'll start here with the list here for the virtual game cards. So you can see these have been added now in the system. So this is the ability to have your system use your digital games like a virtual card. And we'll take a look at that feature here. So this is my Switch. So we'll look over here. They've now added this section here for virtual game cards. I'll end up saying Virtua half the time from like Virtua Fighter, but virtual game cards. So you can see now if you click on that, you've got a list of all your cards here where you can eject them and do all the different things. And you've got a help here, and this pops up the first time you go in this, kind of giving you the tutorial. Most of the stuff, if you've already looked in the game cards, you already know about this, but this is a good reminder in case for those who aren't really plugged in. This will give you a reminder that if you borrow a game, it's going to return after 14 days. So, and you also have to have the systems in the same room basically in order to share, or basically on the same Wi-Fi. And you can also have a locking pin to keep others from accessing the screen. So if you don't want someone to loan out some of your games, then you can put a pin on this and keep them from doing that. So that's pretty cool. So let's keep going back down here through the list. So we also now have the game sharing function. So this is where people can play together locally, and they've already got this feature on here. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. And that's this little screen right here, GameShare. So if you bring this up, you'll see you now can join a GameShare or find out more about it. The about just lets you know that nearby Nintendo Switch 2 users can share compatible software, and you can play together using GameShare. We won't go through all that, but we'll go here to GameShare, join GameShare. So it would be searching now to see if there's anybody out there to join. Of course, I don't have anybody here with me, so I'll just go ahead and back out of that. And now we'll move on to the next little bit of notes here. We have user verification settings. So you can restrict access to the virtual card menu by entering a PIN, which, you know, we already saw that on the other screen. And that's going to be under user and then user settings. I don't see a need to go into that, but we'll move on down to online license settings have been added. So when you turn on, you can play downloaded software or DLC that you've purchased while the system is connected to the internet, even if you don't have the virtual card loaded. So this is being able to play these games offline, not having to have a server to connect to in order to authenticate. So that's a good improvement there. So we'll move on down to the next one. The Nintendo eShop and Nintendo Switch News icon colors have been changed. And we'll go back over to the Switch here. You can see definitely here they've got, yeah, the news icon is green now, and the eShop is, so it's red, and it's got a new little flash here too to go with it, but the eShop's down right now. Oh, well, no, it's back up. It was down just a minute ago. And you can see it's still the same slow eShop, but it's themed red now. So I guess that's an improvement. Supposedly the Switch 2 may have a new eShop that might be like a local install instead of basically just a web front end. I hope so. Okay, so we'll keep on going down the list here. So we've also got save multiple data. Yeah, multiple save data can be transferred at once to your using your save data menu. Transfer to your save data menu. Now this is the part that I thought was interesting. System transfer to Nintendo Switch has been added in our settings and systems. You can perform a system transfer transfer from your Nintendo Switch to your Switch 2 using local communication. Now here's the key. This is the thing that I thought was interesting, though. I don't know if people were expecting this or not. Hey, Tristan. Yep, system transfer to Nintendo Switch 2. Thanks for joining us. We'll go over that, and I'll show you right here where you can see how this works. So this says for users that will lose access to their Nintendo Switch before their Switch 2, before receiving their Switch 2, there's an option to upload system transfer data to a dedicated server, which can then be retrieved on their Nintendo Switch 2. After you upload your system transfer data to the dedicated server, the Nintendo Switch system will be initialized to factory settings, so you can only perform this transfer if you're able to complete the transfer on a Switch 2. So basically, we'll go back over to the Switch here. So they said this was under the settings. Yeah, settings, and then system. And let's see. We'll go down here now to, I think maybe at the very bottom. Yeah, system transfer to Nintendo Switch 2. So if you start this process here, we'll hit next here. They have to give you an about, but you don't need to read that. Then I've got to put in my parental controls. And I only have the parental controls on there because I set it up a long time ago. Hey, I actually did it correct the first time. So you can keep playing compatible Nintendo Switch software on the Switch 2 system. So right here, you've got this option. So if your Switch 2 is already there, you just hit done and you start the transfer. But you can have this option now. I don't have a Nintendo Switch 2 yet. So you can go into this, and this will go ahead and back up your data to the cloud. It'll wipe your system, and then you can go ahead and trade that thing into GameStop or wherever you might want to. Or if you're going to go to GameStop and trade it in that day, do this the night before, and you'll be already set to go. And when you bring up your new Switch 2, it'll pull all that information back down. So I think that's definitely a nice feature that I was not expecting. I think I saw somebody call it like in-cloud instead of iCloud. So Nintendo's kind of backing all your data to their own servers. So that's a definite plus. Now it does say the next step here, if you want to continue using your Nintendo Switch until you have a Nintendo Switch 2, we recommend completing the system transfer using the local communication after you have acquired a Nintendo Switch 2 system, which is what I'll probably do. I'll just wait till mine comes in, I'll transfer it locally. And of course, they're telling you that internet connection and Nintendo account is going to be required to do this. But it doesn't say you don't have to be a member of NSO. You can go ahead and do this transfer even if you're not subscribed. And the last thing here, we got the appearance of some user icons have been updated. So that's pretty much most of the things right here. They do talk about the changing of language. You no longer have a primary console. So that would be if you had two Switch systems, you'd have to have a primary one set so that it could be able to access software offline. But because that's deprecated now, they now have the pass, virtual game cards and the pass enabled console. So once you pass that digital game to the other console, you don't have to be back online to use it. So that's definitely going to be a big improvement. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I know this is kind of a short stream, but I thought the setting here about the being able to transfer your data to a dedicated server right now from the Switch, and then you'll be able to pull that back down when you get your Switch 2. So I noticed there's not anything here about being able to do that with the current Switch. So if you have bought an OLED, or say they clearanced it somewhere and you just bought an OLED and you wanted to update that, it doesn't look like you're gonna have that dedicated server option on that. But anyway, that's pretty much it. That's a short and sweet, quick stream, just kind of going over all this. And just drop a comment if you see this afterwards. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you'll be using this new dedicated server issue because you're going to be or feature because you're going to be trading your Switch in for a Switch 2, and you want to be prepared and do this basically the night before. So that's I think all a really good feature that Nintendo added, and pretty forward thinking on that. So I guess that's going to be it for today. And until next time, be good.